Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today... I'm sorry. Today, things are gonna get weird. One of Survivor's most infamous challenges is the Gross Food Challenge, wherein Jeff transforms into a modern-day Marquis de Sade and forces the contestants to eat live insects, fertilized bird eggs, and drink cow's blood, all for our viewing entertainment at home and presumably to fulfill some sort of sadistic pleasure deep inside himself. The person or tribe with the strongest stomach wins reward or immunity. Incredibly, the Gross Food Challenge, or Buggin' Out as it's known on the production end, has become a Survivor institution dating back all the way to Survivor's second episode. In fact, for the first 4 seasons of the show, this was the episode 2 Immunity Challenge and has been featured as a challenge in 16 seasons of the show, mostly in the pre-HD era, but as recently as Ghost Island. So it's come to this. A Gross Food Challenge video. I went back and rewatched every Gross Food Challenge, and I've come back with the top 10 absolutely most disgusting things this show has ever forced the survivors to eat and drink. The things I do for love. That said, let's dig into the nastiest, gooeyest, creepy crawliest food challenge items in Survivor history. Literally. At number 10, and again, I'm sorry, is 3 baby turtles. Unlike other delicacies on this list, these baby turtles were a one-and-done deal, appearing only in Survivor China, where Amanda and Eric were the unlucky ones forced to eat them, shell and all. Honestly, Survivor has probably had more disgusting foods, taste and smell-wise on the show that could be ranked here, but the emotional burden of having to eat these adorable little turtles, who probably would have grown up to be like 100 years old or something, would be pretty heartbreaking, at least to me. And I'm not alone. The users on turtleforum.com were utterly outraged. Ultimately, Eric Huffman was the champion turtle chomper, and since this particular delicacy never returned again, that's a title he still holds to this very day. At number 9 is the Assorted Smoothies Jeff Probst created in Survivor Pearl Islands and Survivor Samoa. In this challenge, 2 contestants go head-to-head, eating a blended mixture of whatever Lady Luck chooses for them. 2 of my favorites, a double helping of sea slug guts, to which Danger Dave rather enjoys, and jellyfish and milk.
We're gonna go milk.
Milk! Oh, milk! I don't even drink milk by itself.
There's also a space on both boards for the Jeff Special, where Jeff gets to show off his crueler side, choosing whatever ingredients he'd like to add to the mix. The Pearl Island Smoothie Bar is also randomly the site of one of Survivor's most underrated terrible moves, where Drake, knowing the challenge was likely going to a tiebreaker, had Michelle act as a decoy, having her fake disgust at the nasty smoothies, so Morgan would choose her in the tiebreaker round. But Michelle just couldn't help showing off that iron stomach, and Morgan chose Sandra for the final head-to-head instead, and they lost. And Michelle was punished with a quick elimination. Imagine getting voted out because you drank a razor clam, octopus, and shellfish smoothie too well. The 8th nastiest food eaten in the Gross Food Challenge is 1,000-year-old egg in Survivor China. Again, a one and done for China, and again, poor Eric is at bat. Preserved and garnished with clay and ash, Frosty joined Eric as the unlucky souls who have to eat this. Though, in the interest of transparency, these eggs aren't really 1,000 years old, because, you know, they probably would have hatched by now. Some quick Googles tells me that they're really only a few weeks or months old, and that 1,000-year-old egg is just a name. But if you've ever caught a whiff of eggs that have been sitting in the back of the fridge for too long, you know just how disgusting this must have tasted and smelled. Again, Eric is the challenge MVP, and again, the reigning champion, because ancient eggs never reappeared on the Survivor menu again. At number 7 is a tall glass of cow blood and milk in Survivor Africa, a tribal immunity in Africa's second episode. The blood is drawn fresh from a cow right in front of the survivors, in a clip I won't show you, in part because I've punished you enough already, and in part because YouTube will probably nuke this video from orbit if I do so. But rest assured, it is the second most disturbing scene in Survivor Africa. The contestants initially only had to drink a double shot glass of the milky blood, but Kelly and Linda face off in the tiebreaker that makes this truly worthy of this list, having to drink an entire glass of warm blood for immunity, and Linda's triumphant victory celebration became instantly iconic. The sixth most disgusting food eaten on Survivor is all of the various tarantulas and scorpions, a staple that appears in most of these gross food challenges. Spiders made their debut in Survivor Thailand, which, in a particularly cruel twist of fate, the survivors' loved ones had to eat. The boiled tarantula is the final challenge, won by Helen's husband, powered undoubtedly by fear of the repercussions if he lost.
Hey! Don't you dare!
And tarantulas appeared again in All Stars in Cambodia, the second chancers drawing a particularly unlucky hand by having to eat 2 of them. That's also where the scorpion appears, which Wentworth and Sierra had to eat with immunity on the line. And Wentworth wins it, eating stinger and all. At number 5 is Mother of Pearl, the final round challenge in Survivor Ghost Island. Jeff tells us that this, the iridescent lining of mollusk shells, is one of the most sought-after delicacies in Fiji, and I can see why. This is notable for being disgusting in 2 ways. The first is, look at it. The second is just how little Angela is bothered by eating this thing, but I guess when you've eaten army food for 20 years, this is probably nothing. Angela wins the challenge against Michael, and even though he's been defeated, Michael goes back up to finish the meal off, arguing that he's only going to get to experience this once, and so he wants to make the most of it. Aww.
That was gaggerific, bro.
The 4th spot goes to Water Roach, eaten in Survivor Thailand. In Survivor Cambodia, they ate giant water beetles, which are pretty similar, but it's the juice factor of the water roaches in Thailand that catapult them to the top tier of grossness. Jeff warns the competitors, again, the family members of the survivors, that they're juicy, but no one's quite prepared for just how much spurting they're about to experience. It is truly, truly disgusting.
Ready? Go.
Rice Krispie treat.
Clay, have you ever eaten a Rice Krispie treat? I think you're making them wrong. The 3rd most disgusting food item eaten on Survivor is the very first dish served in this challenge: live grubs and larvae. These cute little guys made their inaugural appearance in Survivor Borneo, where Jervis famously failed to eat a couple of them in a head-to-head against Stacy for tribal immunity, and they've shown up here and there ever since, including as the final round of the Survivor Amazon Gross Food Challenge, where Matt just swallows this thing whole. What? The greatest grub moment of all time, though, is in Survivor Blood vs. Water, where Jervis and his stomach have battled their way to the final round of the challenge, only to be thwarted by his particular kryptonite yet again, a pair of adorable little grubs, in a random storyline payoff 12 years in the making. Jervis and Grubs name a more iconic rivalry. At number 2 is Balut, a fertilized egg embryo. Eaten from the shell or removed, it's a matter of personal preference, really. Balut first appeared on the menu in Survivor Palau, in what has to be one of the cruelest challenges ever. This reward challenge goes incrementally, with the first round being 1 balut each, the second round being 2, all the way up to 5. The only problem is Oolong, completely decimated and down to only Bobby John and Stephanie, has only these 2 to put up in the reward challenge against Karor, meaning each tribe only gets 2 competitors who will have to alternate rounds. To top it all off, Tom beats Bobby John in the final round, bringing literal tears to Bobby John's eyes, as he realizes he's eaten all these embryonic ducks for nothing. Ultimately, Survivor's continued insistence on bringing Balut back can be summed up with Eddie Fox's immortal words upon seeing them in this challenge in Survivor Karamoan.
Why? Why?
Go get him, guys.
Why indeed? The grossest item ever eaten in the Gross Food Challenge is Fafa, eaten in Survivor Marquesas and Survivor All-Stars. This is raw fish that's been sunbathed for hours in a marinade made of rotten fish, crab, and seawater. Unsurprisingly, this is notorious for its utterly unbearable stench, which Jeff describes quite eloquently.
And as you can tell, even from where you're standing, this stuff smells worse than a public toilet on a hot summer day.
Adding insult to injury, the castaways have to bob for the Fafaroo, because this wasn't debasing enough already. And Boston Rob has a reaction very similar to me when I think of rewatching Island of the Idols. Bobbing for Farfaroo comes back again in the All-Stars Family Reward, where Rob's brother Mike gets to share his pain, and Rob again gives us one of the greatest reaction shots in Survivor history.
This is Fafaroo, the worst smelling stuff in the world.
Perhaps it's the absolutely disgusting way Jeff describes it. Perhaps it's the copious amounts of flies buzzing around it. Perhaps it's the image of Boston Rob barfing that's associated in my mind with it. But Fafaroo is the nastiest thing the poor survivors have ever had to eat. Now let us never speak of it again. Got nothing else for you. To help me put better food on the table than Balut and Fafaroo, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.